Getting $10 trillion out of nowhere. Chapter 470. Chapter 470, Stop Acting. Chapter 470, Stop Acting. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation. Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Then what should we do now? Sasha shouted. But at this moment Mavis suddenly shouted, by the way, other than Mr. Lin, doesn't one of us have a villa? When everyone heard this, they turned their heads to look at Connor. Connor was also instinctively stunned. Just now, Connor did say that he also had a villa, and this villa was in the most famous villa district in Porthampton, Royal Villas. Of course, the most unbelievable thing was that Connor actually said that his villa was the mansion in the area. The mansion was the most luxurious villa in the whole of Porthampton, worth hundreds of millions. Ordinary people were not qualified to live in that villa. When Connor said that, everyone thought that he was bragging and even laughed at him. But now, the landlord wanted to take back Mina's rented villa, and Eve obviously didn't want to lend them his villa. They could only pin their hopes on Connor. Although everyone knew that the words that Connor said before were probably just bragging, if that villa really belonged to him, wouldn't the current problem be solved? Connor, is that villa yours or not? Sasha shouted at Connor anxiously. Yeah, Connor, if that villa is really yours, then you can lend it to us for a night. Sierra has been preparing for this birthday party for a few days, and we've come all the way here. If we go back just because we don't have a suitable villa, it's not worth it, right? Mavis also hurriedly shouted. At this moment, the two girls had not seen the photo in Eve's hand. They did not know if Connor was really a rich heir, so they begged Connor so earnestly. However, after Connor heard Sasha and Mavis's words, he ignored them. Update on B Omicron X0 VEL.C Omicron M. Connor felt that Mina must have a reason for bringing these people to this villa, instead of the one in Royal Villas. But Connor didn't know why Mina did this. He was worried that if he agreed, it would affect Mina. More importantly, Connor did not have any good feelings for girls like Sierra and Sasha. Why should he lend the villa to them? Connor couldn't wait for their birthday party to fail, so that he could go home earlier. Connor, what are you doing there? Say something. Is that villa yours or not? If it's not yours, you should have told us earlier. We'll think of another way. If it's yours, then lend us the villa. Sasha shouted at Connor excitedly when she saw him standing there without saying a word. Connor couldn't help but hesitate when he heard Sasha's words. He then looked up at Mina's position, wanting to ask for her opinion. After all, the key to the villa was in Mina's hands, and these people were all her friends. At this moment, Mina's expression was very conflicted. She did not know if she should agree or not. Mina still felt that this villa didn't belong to Connor at all. She thought Connor was just working in the showroom, and had stolen the key to the villa. If she really brought Sierra and the others over, they would no longer suspect Connor's identity. However, if the owner of the villa found out, they would probably be in deep trouble. This was also a problem that Mina had been struggling with. Mina, it's already this time, stop acting with us. But at that moment, Sierra suddenly called out. The others were still waiting for Connor's reply, but Sierra already had an answer in her heart. Because she knew that Connor was not a rich heir at all, and that villa could not belong to Connor. Whether Connor agreed or not, it would not affect him at all. Therefore, Sierra planned to expose Connor's true colors in front of so many people. Since her birthday party was ruined, no one would have a good time. Acting. Mina looked at Sierra with a puzzled expression. She didn't know what she meant by that, so she asked Sierra, what kind of show did one put on? You know very well what kind of show you're putting on. Sierra smiled disdainfully and walked up to Connor. She looked at Connor with disdain and said coldly, just now, Eve found a photo of Connor. He's not some rich heir at all. He's just a poor loser who delivers food. Mina, one think you should also know Connor's identity, so you've been covering for him, right? This Connor shouldn't be your boyfriend, right? You brought him here to lie to us so that you can cover up the fact that you're being kept by a rich man. Sierra was in a very bad mood at the moment, so she naturally did not leave any room for negotiation. She was stunned. Other than the fact that Mina was being kept by a rich man, Sierra was right about everything else. This was what shocked Mina the most, because she did not expect Sierra to really find out Connor's true identity. The others were also shocked. They stared at Sierra with wide eyes. They knew very well that since Sierra had already said so, it meant that Sierra must have obtained very important evidence. Connor, on the other hand, stood where he was calmly. After all, Connor knew very well whether he was a rich heir or not. Even if Sierra had any evidence, it was impossible to change the fact that he was, in fact, a rich heir. Sierra, don't be so agitated. After all, Connor is Mina's boyfriend. Isn't it a little inappropriate for you to say that? Dustin was still a loyal person. He felt that Sierra's words were too overboard, so he could not help but stand up and speak softly. Not appropriate. Sierra sneered, then turned to look at Mina and shouted, "It's not appropriate for me to say that. Then is it appropriate for Mina to lie to us?" Everyone knew that she definitely has a sugar daddy, but she just didn't want to admit it. Now she actually got a poor loser to pretend to be her boyfriend. Isn't what she did even more overboard? Sierra, it's not what you think. Mina couldn't help but stand up, wanting to explain herself. If it's not what I think, then what is it like? Sierra smiled disdainfully. Then, she took out Eve's cell phone and shouted at the crowd, "You can take a good look at this photo to see if the person in it is Connor." Chapter end.